Welcome back to another session. Let's continue our discussion on functions. So the first problem is, if f of x equals 4x plus 2, g of x equals 3x minus 1, the two equations above define the functions f of x equals g of x. If f of d equals 2 times g of d, what is the value of d? All you have to do is, remember, you have two functions. The first function is f of x equals 4x plus 2. And the second function is g of x equals 3x minus 1. And they say f of d equals 2 times g of d. All you have to simply do is substitute the value of x with d, which means f of d equals 4 times d plus 1. Remember, whenever you have a function and you have a variable x, and if the x takes on a specific value, then you substitute x with that value. And that's precisely what we did here. So f of d equals 4d plus 2. Similarly, g of d equals 3 times d minus 1. That leads to 3d minus 1. Now, as of now, there's no confusion, and there will be no more confusion in the rest of the problem. All you have to do is equate f of d equals 2 times g of d. That means 4d plus 2 equals 2 times 3d minus 1. So 4d plus 2 equals 6d minus 2. Well, you can bring the d to one side and the numbers to the other sides, which leads to 4 equals 2d, and d equals 2. So the answer choice is D. All right, let's continue. So function f, where f of x equals x squared plus 6x plus 8, is related to a function g, where g of x equals f of x minus 2. What is g of 3? Well, the problem starts off easy and then quickly gets confusing just by the way the rest of the problem is written. So here's what I will first do. Because the function is expressed in terms of f of x, we have to solve ultimately for g of 3. But we have long ways to go before we can get there. Why? Because the given function is in terms of f. So first we have to substitute whatever the value is for x in the f of x expression, get a final expression in terms of f of x minus 2, multiply by 5, that expression is equal to g of x. So if you get that far, then we can substitute 3 in place of x into the new expression, and we can get our final answer. So here's how you do it. So we know f of x equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. So what is f of x minus 2? Well, that will be x minus 2 squared plus 6 times x minus 2 plus 8. So this is nothing but a minus b squared. So that will be x squared minus 4x plus 4 plus 6x minus 12 plus 8. Let's collect everything together. So there's nothing to really add or subtract with the x squared. So let's leave it as it is. So x squared plus 2x. You have 4 minus 12 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. So this whole thing cancels out, which leaves us with f of x minus 2 equals x squared plus 2x. So what is 5 times f of x minus 2? That will be 5 times x squared plus 2x. So that will be 5x squared plus 10x. Now we know 5 times f of x minus 2 equals g of x. In other words, g of x equals 5x squared plus 10x. So what is g of 3? That will be 5 times 3 squared plus 10 times 3. This is 9 times 5 is 45 plus 30 is 75. That's how you do it. So the trick here is, whenever you're equating two functions, chances are you're given an expression for at least one of the functions. So take that function and simplify it, or do whatever you have to do with that function based on the context that's provided in the question for you, and then equate it to the next function and then substitute whatever value you have to substitute, and you'll end up with the answer. And that's exactly what we did here in this problem. So let's continue. So if 2 is less than or equal to an absolute value of p plus 1, which number can it not be? Okay, in this type of problems, it's best you use the choices provided and see under which circumstances the condition fails. Okay, so let's say we know 2 is less than or equal to t plus 1, right? This expression is constant for all of the 5 answer choices. So let's take answer choice A. What if you substitute 3? Well, that's 3 plus 1. So that's 2 less than or equal to 4. Isn't that true? Works. Okay, so that can be the answer. Similarly, 2 less than or equal to t is minus 3 plus 1. So that will be 2 less than or equal to negative 2. And absolute of negative 2 is 2, which is 2 less than or equal to 2. That condition works as well. Let's continue. 2 less than or equal to minus 4 plus 1. Well, if minus 3 didn't work, why would you think minus 4 would work? I don't think it will. So it'll be negative 3. That is same as 2 less than or equal to 3. That works as well. Let's continue. 2 less than or equal to 4 plus 1. If 3 didn't work, why would 4 work, right? So 2 less than or equal to 5. Well, that won't work either. So the correct answer is E. Let's see how it works. So 2 less than or equal to minus 2 plus 1. 2 less than or equal to an absolute of negative 1, which is same as 2 less than or equal to 1. Well, 2 is not less than 1. 2 is not equal to 1. So under this circumstance, the problem fails. So the correct answer is E equals negative 2. And typically when you're asked to figure out when something doesn't work, it's always best you use the answer choices provided, because they've already given you everything you need to know. You just have to plug in each one of the value at a time and figure out what would be the best way to do it. If you know of an alternative way that's even faster than this method, please let me know in the comments box below. I would love to know your view on it. So let's continue. F of x equals 0.1 x plus 7. G of x equals 1000 x plus 4. What is G of f of 100? We've done I think a couple of problems like this, not quite, but a few problems like this. Always start from the center and work your way out. So we know the inner function is f of 100. So we go straight to the function that contains the f expression. So f of x equals 0.1 x plus 7. So what would be f of 100? So it'll be 0.1 times 100 plus 7. So 100 times 0.1 is 10, right? Plus 7 equals 17, right? So we know f of 100 is 17. So essentially f of 100 equals 17. So G of f of 100 is simply same as G of 17. Essentially, you're substituting f of 100 with 17. Okay. So that means G of x would be 1000x plus 4. So G of 17 would be 1000 times 17 plus 4 is 17,000 plus 4 is 17004. Choice D is the correct answer. Sorry, did I add an extra 0? Let me rewrite all of this. 17004. Is that clear? So when you're given f of a function of something else, which is there's two functions. One is a function of the other. Then you work your way from the center to the outermost function, and it's just that simple. Most likely you'll only see two, sometimes you might see three. That is h of g of f of 4, something like that. Okay. The rate of a gym membership costs $P the first month and $M per month every month thereafter. Which of the following represents the total cost of the gym membership for n months if n is an integer? Keep in mind, the rate of the gym membership costs $P for the first month, right? So that means $P is different than the cost of the membership for the remaining 11 months in a year is different than the cost for the first month, right? So if you notice that there's only three choices that actually utilizes that concept. So it'll be this, this, or this. That is choice C, D, or E, because these two have other variables tagged to the cost of the first month's membership. So these are not true because, again, the question clearly says that the first month cost is different from the rest of the month, right? So that means the cost after each month is $M, right? There is n months. N here is 11, right? But a year contains 12 months, right? So technically you only have 12 minus 1 months, right? Right? N should be 11. How do we get 11? It's 12 minus 1. Or in other words, we have n minus 1. Okay, I think I said this wrong here. Okay. We have n minus 1 months, right? Because n is 12. That's what I meant to say. N is 12 total months, but the first month is $P. So n minus 1 is 11. That's what I meant to write. So n minus 1 is 11. So for 1 month, it's $M after the first month. So n minus 1 would be, right? For 1 month after the first month, it's $M. So n minus 1 months would be n minus 1 times m. Now that gets added to the cost of the first month. So the correct answer is this. These are incorrect. Okay. Did you see what I did? Well, the key here is the first month. The question clearly says the rate of the first month is different than the rest of the 11 months in a year. So, which means that cost cannot be affected by any change whatsoever to whatever be the case with the gym membership. That value cannot be affected. So we can directly eliminate choice in B because they have other variables tagged to the variable P. Whereas in the other three, they're likely, okay? But the reason E is incorrect is because it's saying M times N, means you're essentially saying a year contains 13 months if you do that math. So that's incorrect. And here it's N plus 1 and N minus 1. Again, when you say N plus 1, you're stating, again, 13 months equivalent, and that's not the case because a month is already gone, which means you should only be left with 11 months. The only way you can get 11 months is if you subtract 12 minus 1. Because there are n months, n equals 12, 12 minus 1 is 11. So only a negative number would fit the scenario. You can approach it that way, or you can literally do what I just did and you'll end up with the correct answer. All right. All right, so if f of x equals x plus 4 over x minus 4 for all integers except x equals 4, which of the following has the lowest value? Just like I did previously with the one problem where it was asking which of the following will not result. you can take that sort of approach for this sort of problem, because pretty much you have an expression, you're told this is not possible, and you're asked to figure out which of the following as the lowest value. All you have to do is substitute each one into the expression, determine which one will give you the lowest value possible. That means that variable and the substituent is what is the answer. So in other words, we have f of x equals x plus 4 over x minus 4. So if it is f of -3, that'll be -3 plus 1 over -3 times -4. That will be plus 1 over, what is it, -7, right? Right? Let's leave it as it is for now. So f of 6 would be 6 plus 4 over 6 minus 4. 10 minus 2 is 5. Clearly, this is a negative value. So right away, we can say 6 is not possible. Let's go to f of -1. -1 plus 4 over -1 times 5. This would be 3 over plus 3 over -5. So this is -3 over 5. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. We can get a value eventually, but for now, let's just go ahead and do the rest. So f of 1 would be 1 plus 4 over 1 minus 4. That'll be 5 minus 3. So that would be -5 over 3. And then f of 0 would be 0 plus 4 over 0 minus 4. That'll be 4 over 4 equals -1. Okay. So if you notice, these two would be negative decimals, right? -1 over 7, -3 over 5. Whereas this is -5 over 3 would be greater than -1, right? Which is greater than, we don't need to even worry about these two, because these are two smaller decimals, negative decimals, whereas these are larger negative decimal. If you know, the larger the decimal, the smaller the value is, right? So between these two, the -5/3 is the largest. If you don't believe me, 5 over 3 is 1.7. So this is -1.7 is greater than, well, in terms of value, it's greater. But what I'm really saying here is this value is greater, but then the negative makes it smaller. In other words, -1.7 is less than -1. Okay, keep in mind, just the value is what I'm going for. Only with that help, I'm going to say when it becomes a negative, -1.7 is less than -1. That means f of, what is it, 1 is the lowest value. Does that make sense? All right. All right, I personally like this problem because it gave me, it made me think, okay? I'll tell you when I finish with the problem, what led me to actually solve the problem the way I solved it. So Jamie is 3 years, 3 times her little brother Sage, and her little brother is 2 years younger than his older brother. Collectively, the 3 of them are 27 years old. How old is Jamie? I purposefully hidden the answer choices so that you can pause the video at this point and try to work this problem and see if you get the same answer as I do. Now, we don't know the age of Jamie, her little brother, or the older brother. So who should we assign X? And that's very critical, because you can probably assign X to Jamie or her little brother or older brother. I'm sure there's a way you can work it out so you get the answer. But if you can place the X on one person, where it makes the problem so much easier, is critical. And I tried first assigning, because the person that actually is given a proper name is Jamie. I tried to assign X to Jamie, but then I noticed, well, it's kind of getting a little twisted. And it actually took me through a road where I was like, okay, this is getting really complicated. So I stopped that method, and then I went back and redid it. Here's how I did it. I gave the older brother X. Okay, so I'm going to call the older brother as OB as X. Okay, and the little brother is 2 years younger than the older brother. So little brother is 2 years younger than the older brother, right? So X minus 2. So whatever the age of the older brother is, the little brother is X minus 2. And Jamie is 3 times her little brother's age. So 3 times X minus 2. Do you see how simple that was? It was very, very simple when I assigned X to the older brother versus Jamie, because, you know, I'm a typical human being. So because there's a person with a name given, I was giving all the preference to that character in that problem. So I ended up assigning X to it, which means I had to do a lot of back work to actually make it work. And I thought, well, I guess eventually I would be able to work it out, but I figured if I'm only having 30 seconds to a minute, that's not going to work. So if you might be on the same path on a test as well. I'm not going to say this will never happen. And if it does happen, don't panic. Stop right then and there. Maybe go to work a different problem. While you work it, you might get the idea, why don't we think it differently? You can come back in the end and solve it. Or just like I did, if you have sufficient time, then what you might be able to do is just assign X to the other end of the spectrum. So we have Jamie, and then you have the little brother, and then the older brother. Here, first time around, I assigned X to Jamie. This time around, I assigned X to the older brother, which is the other end of the extreme. And bingo, it was so easy. See, we know little brother is X minus 2. If Jamie is 3 times this little brother's age, that's X minus 2. Now, we know that all their ages sum up to 27. So X plus X minus 2 plus 3X minus 6, that's equal to 27. So 3X plus X is 4X minus 6, 4X plus X is 5X. So 5X and then minus 2 minus 8 equals 27. So 5X equals 27 plus 8, which is 35, right? Yeah. So 5X, X equals 35 over 5 is 7. So we only know the older brother's age. But the question is asking how old is Jamie? Jamie is 3 times 7 minus 2 is 3 times 5 equals 15. And when I looked at the answer choice, 15 was right there. I was literally relieved because, and then I obviously checked the answer choice and I was right. So this question just made my day and made me happy because I didn't just give up. I went to the other end of the extreme and assigned X to the older brother. I think what gave me the clue to give the older brother the X is because Jamie is 3 times her little brother's age, and her little brother is 2 years younger than his older brother. The sentence is disconnected, right? There's really no connection between Jamie and the older brother. So, and also, her little brother is 2 years younger than the older brother. So it's easy to assign a negative symbol. And then Jamie is 3 times her little brother's age. Now, I felt the little brother was kind of a liaison connecting the two, even though the connection was not very clear. So I tried this method and it worked. And, you know, I felt very happy that I was able to solve the problem the way I did. So if you learned something, please subscribe to my channel, share the video with your family and friends. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos on the topic of function. I'll see you with another video, all right? So stay tuned.